Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kala Chandri Radha Kala Chandri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Good morning, devotees. My name is Manjari Gopika Devi Dasi. And today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 11, verses 8 through 17. And we'll focus on verse 17. Well, before we begin, I ask for your blessings, that I may speak something pleasing to my spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the devotees. Let us begin together first by chanting the invocation prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim sarvasvatim vyasyam tato jayamudirayet. Nasta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I need a microphone, I think. Krishna, would you grab that for me? Thanks, Prabhu. All right. Yes. So, as I stated previously, we will be hearing from Canto 9, Chapter 11, verses 8 through 17, and we'll focus on verse 17. So we can, we'll read through these. There's not so many people here today, so probably each person could read 2, and then we'll open up verse 17. But just a quick recap, because we started Chapter 11 yesterday, so just where we are. In this chapter, Lord Ramachandra has returned to Ayodhya, and he is ruling as the ideal king, performing sacrifices and worshiping the Brahmins. After giving everything he owns in charity, even his kingdom, Lord Ramachandra keeps only his personal garments, showing his complete detachment and humility. The Brahmins, overwhelmed by his affection, return everything back to Lord Ram in gratitude. Today's section continues as Shukadeva Goswami describes the Lord's conduct as a householder and the example that he sets for the world. Jaishnav, would you, so everybody read 2 verses, so would you read 8 and 9, please? We're going to do 8 through 17. So just read, 11th chapter. He's turning it on.
Shukadeva Goswami continued. Once while Lord Ramachandra was walking at night incognito, hiding himself by a disguise to find out the people's opinion of himself, he heard a man speaking unfavorably about his wife Sita Devi. Speaking to his unchaste wife, the man said, "You go to another man's house and therefore you are unchaste and polluted. I shall not maintain you anymore. A henpecked husband like Lord Rama may accept a wife like Sita who went to another man's house, but I'm not henpecked like him, therefore I shall not accept you again."
Sukadeva Goswami said, "Men with a poor fund of knowledge and a heinous character speak nonsensically. Fearing such rascals, Lord Ramachandra abandoned his wife Sita Devi, although she was pregnant. Thus Sita Devi went to the ashram of Valmiki Muni. When the time came, the pregnant mother Sita Devi gave birth to twin sons, later celebrated as Lav and Kush. The ritualistic ceremonies for their birth were performed by Valmiki Muni." Naina, you want to read? Can you see? Oh, you don't have your glasses. You need glasses.
I can read. Anybody else? Mother Starry, would you like to read? We could do 12 and then the combined verse of 13, 14.
O Maharaj Parikshit, Lord Lakshman had two sons named Arigata and Citraketu, and Lord Bharat also had two sons named Taksha and Puskala. Satrugna had two sons named Subha and Shrurasena. When Lord Bharat went to conquer all directions, he had to kill many millions of Gandhavars, who are generally pretenders. Taking all their wealth, he offered it to Lord Ramachandra. Satrugna also killed a Raksha named Lavana, who was the son of Madhu Raksha. Thus he established in the great forest known as Madhuvana the town known as Mathura.
After hearing the news of Mother Sita's
I think we skipped 15. Yeah, 15. Mm-hmm.
being forsaken by her husband, Sita Devi entrusted her two sons to the care of Valmiki Muni. Then, meditating upon the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra, she entered into the earth. After hearing the news of Mother Sita's entering the earth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead was certainly aggrieved. Although he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, upon remembering the exalted qualities of Mother Sita, he could not check his grief in transcendental love.
The attraction between a man and a woman, or male and female, always exists everywhere, making everyone always fearful. Such feelings are present even among the controllers like Brahma and Lord Shiva, and is the cause of fear for them. What to speak of others who are attached to a household life in this material world. After Mother Sita...
Oh no, that's our verse. Thank you. Yes. So if we could open up 17, that's where we're ending and we're focusing on today. Thank you so much, everyone. All right, let's chant the Sanskrit and we'll get deeper into text 17. Sripum prasanga etadrik sarvatratra samavaha apishvaranam kimuta gramyasya griha chetasaha. Please chant. Sripum prasanga etadrik sarvatra trasamavaha apishvaranam kimuta gramyasya griha chetasaha. Sripum prasanga etadrik sarvatra trasamavaha apishvaranam kimuta gramyasya grihachetasaha. Sripum prasanga etadrik sarvatra samavaha apishvaranam kimuta gramyasya grihachetasaha. right, let's move on to the synonyms. And since we can all see them together, we can read them together. Stri Pum Prasanga, attraction between husband and wife or man and woman. Etadrik, like this. Sarvatra, everywhere. Trasam avahaha, the cause of fear. Api, even. Ishvaranam, of controllers. Kim uta, and what to speak of. Gramyasya, of ordinary men of this material world. Griha chetasaha, who are attached to materialistic household life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The attraction between man and woman, or male and female, always exists everywhere, making everyone always fearful. Such feelings are present even among the controllers like Brahma and Lord Shiva, and is the cause of fear for them. What to speak of others who are attached to household life in this material world? Purport. As explained above, when the feelings of love and transcendental bliss from the spiritual world are pervertedly reflected in this material world, they are certainly the cause of bondage. As long as men feel attracted to women in this material world and women feel attracted to men, the bondage of repeated birth and death will continue. But in the spiritual world, where there is no fear of birth and death, such feelings of separation are the cause of transcendental bliss. In the absolute reality, there are varieties of feeling, but all of them are of the same quality of transcendental bliss. So, this verse tells us that the attraction between man and woman exists everywhere, and it even causes fear in great personalities like Brahma and Lord Shiva. Why is this? Why is this fearful? What is the greatest danger in life? Jaishnav, what's the greatest danger in life? Thank you. Your mother, yes, Lalita Sundari said it. The greatest danger in life is forgetting Krishna. And nothing makes us forget him more powerfully than this sexual attraction. Practically the entire world, the entire material world, turns on this one force. Billions are spent on fashion, cosmetics, entertainment, all meant to stimulate or satisfy sex desire. Srila Prabhupada said plainly that material life itself is nothing but sex life. Lord Rishabhadev confirms in the 5th canto, Pumsa Striya Matuni Bhavame Tam, the attraction between man and woman is the basis of material existence. From that knot of attraction comes these expansions of the false ego of my home, my family, my wealth, my nation. And our acharyas explain this is not merely physical, it's philosophical. This material sense, sex desire, when recklessly pursued, it reinforces the illusion of I and mine, because we forget that everything, including our own body, belongs to Krishna. So then this desire becomes the root of bondage, and therefore, as stated in this verse, fear. In the 7th canto, in chapter 9, verse 45, Prahlad Maharaj very famously compares material sex life to rubbing two hands together to scratch an itch. Fools think that scratching the itch is happiness, but scratching the itch makes it worse. It always ends in pain. And so in that verse, Prahlad Maharaj explains that the sober person tolerates the itch and doesn't become a servant of it. Without spiritual knowledge, people repeat the same mistakes, the same pursuits, lifetime after lifetime, never understanding, why am I still not happy? Why am I still suffering? And that's why, again, this attraction is called the cause of fear. It keeps us in that cycle of pursuing pleasure. However, Krishna consciousness doesn't deny the attraction between man and woman. It purifies it. It's innate. That's how we are designed. But we are taught to regulate it, because regulation is protection. It's not repression. It's not denying anything. It's channeling this in the proper way. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.11, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. So the Vedic system doesn't pretend the impulse doesn't exist. It channels it in the proper direction. Because when that same energy is guided by Dharma, is guided by Scripture, it no longer binds. But when it is uncontrolled, recklessly pursued, it becomes illusion's strongest chain to this material world. So Krishna created many ashrams. He created the Varnashram system. And one of those ashrams is the Grihastha ashram. It's a sacred framework that makes this innate pairing of man and woman regulated and purifying instead of dangerous and fearful and misplaced. So when this innate attraction is brought under Dharma through marriage, a yajna, vows, welcoming devotee children, raising them together, worshiping Krishna, keeping Krishna at the center of this household life, it becomes a stepping stone back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Thank you. So Srila Prabhupada distinguishes between two kinds of householders. In the third canto, in the purport of Canto 3, Chapter 22, Verse 11, he writes, two words are used in Sanskrit literature. One is grihastha and the other is grihamedi. The difference is that grihastha is an ashram or spiritual order. But if one simply satisfies his senses as a householder, then he is a grihamedi. For a grihamedi, to accept a wife means to satisfy the senses. But for a grihastha, a qualified wife is an assistant in every respect for advancement in spiritual activities. A grihamedi marries to enjoy, marries to expand their false ego of I and mine. A grihastha marries to serve, to enter an ashram. And externally, they may look similar. Spouses, cars, children, houses, jobs. But internally, they are worlds apart. One lives for the senses, and the other lives for devotional service. It's very important to understand what marriage means in Krishna consciousness and how the Grihastha ashram, again, which is an actual ashram, a sacred order. It says valid as brahmachari ashram and sannyas and vanaprashta. So it's important to understand how the Grihastha ashram supports spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada said that the wife is like a fortress protecting the husband from Maya. And he said the purpose of marriage is to be happy in Krishna consciousness. The Grihastha ashram gives structure and balance so that our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs can be satisfied in a healthy way. When those needs are properly met, the mind becomes peaceful and capable of focusing on devotional service. Of course, the purpose of marriage is to keep Krishna, the purpose of a devotional marriage is to keep Krishna in the center. So the purpose is for the husband and wife to serve together, to inspire one another and help each other advance on the path of bhakti. Krishna accepts our devotion through how we serve one another in this ashram. In 1969, when Srila Prabhupada performed a marriage ceremony in New Vrindavan, he said that the duty of a husband and wife is to dedicate themselves to making each other happy, because without happiness, there cannot be growth in bhakti. It is the responsibility of both husband and wife to keep one another happy in devotional service, engaged, motivated, inspired. Grihastha life is designed so that by living together in a spiritual environment, we gradually become purified. Prabhupada also explained that the husband's duty is to protect his wife, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, by providing for her needs, showing her affection and respect, and offering a strong spiritual example so that she feels confident and inspired to continue. The wife's duty is to assist her husband to remain chaste and faithful, to inspire him in his devotional service. When both act responsibly, respect each other, and encourage one another in Krishna consciousness, the home becomes Vaikuntha. Our acharyas say that. The home becomes Vaikuntha. Sometimes devotees misunderstand and think, especially if you were to read this verse at face value, that there shouldn't be any love in marriage. But that's not what Srila Prabhupada taught. There should be love, affection, appreciation, and healthy attachment between husband and wife, and between parents and children. That is what creates a stable and nurturing family environment. And sometimes devotees have an immature idea of detachment and reject affectionate dealings out of fear that they might become attached to each other. But this can lead to aversion, which is just the other side of attachment. They're two sides of the same coin. In this regard, Malati Devi Dasi, one of Prabhupada's most senior disciples, shared that once a young husband told Srila Prabhupada that his wife wasn't happy. And Prabhupada instructed him to show her more affection. And he said, "You must kiss her." And the devotee was shocked. He had been a very strict brahmachari before marriage. But Malati Devi was saying that Prabhupada was teaching that affection is appropriate and it's not material when it's expressed in the ashram and the loving exchanges of a husband and wife. As Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport of Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 42, perfection of pure devotional service is attained when all attention is diverted toward the loving service of the Lord. To cut off affection for others doesn't mean to kill affection itself. That's impossible, because affection is a symptom of life. The only thing that changes is the objective. Desire, anger, and attraction cannot be destroyed. But when they are directed toward Krishna's satisfaction instead of our own, that is devotional service. Genuine love softens the heart, and a soft heart is necessary for bhakti. And when you're serving with someone in your ashram, it should be natural that affection and respect develop. Without affection, relationships become mechanical. Also, in the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 8, verses 33-34, Prabhupada explains, if husband and wife are attached to one another for advancement in Krishna consciousness, their relationship of cooperation is very effective for spiritual progress. That's the real meaning of attachment. Attachment to help each other serve Krishna better. And this is exactly what His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj emphasizes when he speaks about marriage in Krishna consciousness. He explains that the real beauty of marriage is not external harmony or romantic emotion, but instead in how two people choose to walk the path of responsibility and devotion together for a higher purpose. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj once spoke at a wedding, and he shared so many wonderful things. And one of them was this very instructive story. He said when he was about 8 years old, his mother told him that she and his father were not getting along anymore. She wasn't even sure that they liked each other anymore, and that she thought they should separate. And when he heard that, he was devastated, and he ran and he hid in the house crying for hours. Later that evening, when his father came home from work, he knew that his parents were going to talk about this. So they went to a different room and they closed the door, and Maharaj crept and he put his ear against the door to listen to what they were saying. And he heard his mother tell his father how much their little boy had cried when she told him that they were going to separate. And he heard his parents both say, okay, for the rest of their lives, they would stay together, because that was what was best for their child. Even if they weren't sure how they were going to do it, and they really didn't feel like doing it in that moment, they realized what would happen if they didn't. They stayed together. They never separated. And years later, Maharaj said that he never saw two people who loved each other so deeply. Their love was not based on romance or convenience. It was based on principle, on selflessness, responsibility, and compassion. Because they chose to stay together and work through difficulty for a higher value, Maharaj said he believes Krishna rewarded them with genuine love. And this, Radha Swami says, is the true meaning of marriage, a sacred vow taken before God, not merely for personal happiness, but for purification. When a husband and wife serve one another for Krishna's pleasure, their home becomes a laboratory. He says a spiritual laboratory where the impurities of the heart are burned away through patience, forgiveness, tolerance, and service. Just as a diamond is created when coal is pressed under tremendous pressure, and gold is purified through fire, by faithfully passing through good and bad times together for Krishna, a marriage can make us spiritually perfect. That is the yoga of marriage, of Grihastha Ashram. Not merely living together, but advancing together, seeing each other as sacred instruments entrusted by Krishna for our advancement and purification. From a spiritual perspective, His Holiness Radha Swami said, a husband should see his wife as Krishna's beloved daughter, entrusted to his care. How he speaks to her, how he treats her, how he protects her, all of these are offerings that Krishna personally receives. A wife, likewise, should see her husband as Krishna's beloved son, entrusted to her protection and encouragement. If both see each other in this light, their relationship becomes devotional service. Maharaj explains this, that the foundation of a healthy relationship is respect. Respect for each other as eternal souls, as devotees of the Lord. Affection may fluctuate, feelings come and go. But when respect and care are steady, that respect matures into a deep spiritual love. Respect and care must manifest physically and emotionally. Physically through providing and maintaining the necessities of life, home, food, clothing, health, bills. And emotionally through appreciation, communication, and encouragement. His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj says that many times women come to him saying, my husband doesn't care about me. He never appreciates what I do. And then when he speaks to the husbands, they say, of course I care. And then he asks, well, did you tell her? And they say very often, well, why should I tell her? She should know. Maharaj says this is one of the great downfalls in marriage, lack of communication. Sometimes we communicate with everyone except the person we live with. But genuine communication, which involves expressing appreciation, expressing affection, and encouraging each other, is essential for a healthy spiritual relationship. marriage in Krishna consciousness, entering into the Grihastha ashram, should not be something we simply tolerate because we took vows. It should be dynamic, alive, and connected to Krishna, where every struggle becomes a spiritual challenge to overcome together. And every victory, every challenge overcome, brings the couple closer to Krishna. Because when husband and wife serve together with that vision, with that mission, their marriage becomes an ashram, not a contract. It becomes a path of perfection. In the early days of the movement, we've heard that some devotees misunderstood. They thought that because Krishna is the ultimate goal, they didn't need to have an involved relationship with their spouse. They didn't need to be attentive to their children. But Srila Prabhupada never taught neglect. He taught responsibility. If our so-called service to Krishna causes us to ignore the people Krishna has entrusted to us, then that's not service. Being present for family, encouraging them in bhakti, showing affection, these are not distractions, they're expressions of devotion. Krishna accepts our service through how we treat his devotees. And that begins in our own home. The message of this verse is not to avoid marriage, but to avoid forgetfulness of Krishna. The attraction itself between man and woman is not the problem. The absence of Krishna is the problem. A grihamedi lives for their senses, a grihastha lives for Krishna. That's what I've prepared. So would love to hear your reflections, questions, corrections. I think that did we replace the batteries in it or no? I think Nina. Does it have batteries in it? Did we replace it? Oh, yes, okay. No, that's okay. Here, you can take this one. We can get batteries. You want me to repeat that right now? Mother Kunti is saying that many marriages early in ISKCON were arranged. And many of them ended in divorce.
There's really, thank you, Drishtina. There's no, so early on, the spiritual masters, it wasn't really his job, but he was kind. He was very kind, and he tried to get people situated because, like you said early on in your lecture, very nicely prepared, if I may add, I took some notes. The thing is you're right. I mean, if Krishna is in the center, there is no problem showing that affection because Krishna is there. And sometimes we're blamed, because someone left or, this person's bad or crazy or no good because the other person left them. So they must be really bad, and so it becomes a bad guy, good guy thing, and then you're judged, and then you're trying to chant Hare Krishna and have good relationships, and yet you have this reminder over and over again of how fallen you are and how awful you are, and then you have to just kind of wade through it and just say, well, deep down inside, there's a spirit soul, and it's Satchidananda, and that's who I am. Mm-hmm. And, who cares if we're judged? Who cares? Because after this life, it's, you clap your hands in front of the deities, you leave your body, whatever, and it all changes again. Mm-hmm. And Krishna, is the only judge. And Krishna knows exactly what's going on and what happens. And why?
Right.
So how do you navigate this really poor self-image from a failed marriage and, especially when you have two kids from it, and still not, how do you keep Krishna? Like you said, what is the most fearful thing? Forgetting Krishna.
Right.
Mother Lalita Sundari gave us that answer.
Yeah.
And so do you have any thoughts on that? Thank you.
Well, I don't know how qualified I am to speak on that. However, I don't even know if I would even call it a failed marriage. It's just, it didn't work out. Krishna has a plan for you, and Krishna's plan is always perfect. May not be what you want, but it's always perfect. And I don't think we can compare apples to oranges. Everybody has their own karma, trajectory, and purification. And for some people, that might be part of the purification, to have that one relationship that was, you try and you try and you try. And if you're not able to keep Krishna in the center, if these two people living together, it's not helping your devotional service, it's getting worse, and you've taken all the steps, because you've taken all the steps of meeting with Guru and doing counseling, and it just may be that one party isn't willing to do the work. That's really not helpful to have them as your ashram mate, I would imagine. So I think it's very much a case-by-case basis why people separate, and I'm sure it is valid. I wouldn't really look at it as a failure. It's just another stepping stone. It's another stepping stone on your path. Nobody's life looks exactly the same. Srila Prabhupada has commented he was very unhappy in his own marriage, and he said that was, his father even told him, it's in the Lilamrit, I'm sure many of you know, that he wasn't happy after he married his wife Radharani. And at that time, it was legal in India to have more than one wife. But he didn't get another wife because his father said, no, I think actually this will help you. I think somehow this arrangement that you getting a partner that you don't see eye to eye with is actually going to help you in your spiritual life. And he was right. He was right. It made it actually easier for him to be more committed to the instruction of his spiritual master. Mr. Dimnaprabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was thinking on this topic that we go through a lot of challenges in life and a lot of situations, and we can often feel like the material energy will embarrass us, or we try new initiatives and they fail, or different things like that. And I've kind of like heard from devotees, or come to the conclusion that we only fail if we leave devotional service because of it.
Yes.
Like that's the only failure. If a project we work on doesn't work out, it was just another step in the process of going back to Krishna. But if by the end of a certain chapter we have lost our Krishna consciousness, or our bhakti has taken a hit, then that means that was a failure, or that was a disturbance. But the fact that we're able to still be devotees afterwards means that it wasn't a failure, actually.
Perfectly said. Thank you, Drishtadyumna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very beautiful lecture, Mataji. I had a question. Like, I am in a state of conflict. I can either be attached to Krishna or not. So in this process of respecting your partner, appreciating, it's a very good perspective. But I feel there is a risk that Maya might attack you somewhere. And like, mind might fool you that you are loving someone as a son of Krishna. But actually Maya is attacking you, and you're getting deviated from that path. So wanted to discuss this risk, and what are your thoughts regarding this?
Well, do you do any service together?
Yeah, we do service together.
You chant
Krishna
together?
is in the center.
And you read
But
together?
my question is that loving someone surrendering completely to someone, you might lose yourself, means losing yourself completely, such that you forget Krishna in the process.
Two. Yeah. It takes some maturity, for sure. And we have to keep hearing from Shastra and hearing from our acharyas. The point I was trying to make is there are two extremes. So involved that you're living for someone else, and then, or thinking I don't want to have any attachment to someone because I'm not supposed to love anyone except Krishna. Those are the two extremes. And we don't need to live in the two extremes. It was the point that I'm trying to make. Having a loving relationship with your spouse who is a devotee it should be normal. Otherwise, what's the point of being married? If you don't want to spend time with someone and do service for them, then why not just live alone? And appreciating each other for what they bring to your devotional service, it should make you love them in that way. Like, I think to myself, where would I be if, I didn't have my husband? And not to embarrass him, but he knows he's the love of my life. But it's not even just that on like a bodily platform. It's, I think to myself, is being with this person making me more Krishna conscious? Yes, it is. How is it making me more Krishna conscious? When I chant around him, he listens to how I chant my rounds. He's always got lectures on. I've got lectures on. I want to talk to him about the things that I'm reading. I have any problems with devotees, I can sit with him. He'll talk to me without judging me. Appreciating those qualities in him as a devotee deepens my relationship, and it keeps Krishna at the center. I hope that makes sense. So I do see him, yes, I find him very, very handsome. Yes. So happy to have, proud to have him by my side. That's sure. But on a deeper level, that's not what I'm thinking about all the time. I'm thinking about him as a devotee because that's what he brings to my life.
I think I see what you're saying, because at the beginning of the chapter, at the beginning of the verse, it was all about fear. Mm-hmm. It was this fear, and it's rooted in forgetting Krishna.
Right.
It's not so much fearing that you're going to lose your sense gratification. The real fear is rooted in forgetting Krishna. And that's what happens. So it's kind of like doing both at the same time. Yes, just like the ladies in India, they balance the pot on the head, and they're able to carry their baby. So it's like a right, simultaneous one and difference. Jai. Anyone else?
Hi, Krishna, Manjari, Gopika. I came in and I was like taking furious notes because every point you were saying was like, oh my gosh, I need to write this down. So just like I used to do in the early days, I have to request you to share your notes with me, because I know, today there was a lot of Halloween, so we had to rescue our kids with their Halloween decorations, so I was late. But so many wonderful points you made, and I think one angle that His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu said, like, our spouses are our mirrors. So I feel I can being the actor that I am, I can put on an act almost everywhere, but then at home it's the hardest. And so our spouses shine that light, and so it becomes the most difficult to that relationship becomes the hardest because the purification is the most. But you brought up so many wonderful points, I'm just going to read them over and over and reflect. I mean, you brought out points from Radhanath Swami, but it was like very compact and like the bullet points. So that was very nice. So thank you.
Everything's from Radhanath Swami. But to your point, and I also heard a lecture on this by Her Grace Devaki Mataji. So the Grihastha ashram, it's an ashram, it purifies us. We have to confront all of these things about our false ego. All the things of I and mine and who is right and, you know, who's the authority. And you really have to burn all of those things away and each become the servant of the other to please Krishna. It's extremely purifying. There was one spiritual master in Ukraine or something, and he said, anyone who's in Grihastha ashram for 30 years will be pure enough to go back to Godhead. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I had a curiosity if you could shine some more light on Lord Ramachandra's fear of the rascals, as written in the translation. This, you know, as the translation says, you know, this rascal was criticizing Lord Ram. And, you know, we often hear that it's kind of like a mix of things that, you know, we shouldn't care what the crows think. You know, if we ask a room of mad people for their opinion, you know, we shouldn't care what other people think if they think that we're crazy. And yet, we also hear that we should be so humble and that Krishna speaks to us through everyone. And so I was just wondering if you could shed some more light on this topic of Lord Ram.
I wish I could, Chaitanya Prabhu. I'll have to defer to my seniors here. I admit in front of God and everyone, I don't know the Ramayan very well. So that's why I spoke on the purport and not the context. So would you be able to answer, Gokulananda Prabhu or Mother Kunti? Could you restate the question?
I can repeat it.
Or restate it, yeah.
So in the translation, it was saying that Lord Ramachandra had abandoned Sita Devi because of fear of the words of the criticizer. So it said because of fear of the rascal, essentially. So I was wondering if we could get more insight on the lesson that we can learn from that.
Yes, and then we'll respond to Rupanuga Prabhu. Thanks for hanging in there, Rupanuga Prabhu, and for always commenting.
Well, this is my understanding. Lord Ram is said to be Maryada Purushottam. Now the focus is on this particular prefix called Maryada. Maryada means limitations. There is Dharma. Dharma cannot be translated properly in English. Dharma is defined as religion, but actually Dharma means set of duties and rules and limitations and restrictions in a particular given time, place, situation, and the person, the character. So we need to understand whenever Supreme Lord enacts any pastimes, he's a multitasker. There are many facets to it. So there are certain, flashback, there are curses, there are curses proclaimed by his devotees, so he has to make them come true. That is one facet, and he has to align everything. So when he comes here, one of the facets is he has to present the tallest order for any common person. So now he's playing an actor as a king, right? So there is a dharma, again, set of duties in a given particular time, place, situation. So those things, it's so much intricate. So what we fail to understand is whenever we try to restrict the Supreme Lord within our understanding, our rules, set of rules and expectations as a human being. There are gradations, this is my understanding, gradations of dharmas, set of duties. So when he's playing as an actor, as a king, then that is the topmost duty he has to play. Then he has to forget the role of being an individual or the role of being a husband. So as we know, he is the most ideal husband, And he loved Mother Sita more than anyone else practically we can think of. And he had genuine love, he had sacrifice so much. So love basically means sacrifice and service, and we can see both the aspects in his pastimes. But when he's playing as a king, then he has to not only adhere to the duties of a king, but also he has to set the most ideal standard as a king. So most refined that we cannot even think of. And that is where even little bit of tinge of fault cannot exist. That is called adarsha. Adarsha means most ideal. So that is my understanding. And that's why he has to be sensitive even to one nonsense or a rascal's comment. Right? So that is my understanding.
Thank you. I'm going to read His Grace Rupanuga Prabhu's question to wrap things up here. He posted in the chat that we have on WhatsApp. He says, I noticed in the past that husbands and wives are often working in a setting that requires them to work with husbands or wives of others who are not present. I've seen that affections arise with others' spouses. What should a person do in such an environment? So men and women working together, they're married, but not to each other. Well, I don't know how well I can answer this. I'll certainly try. So sometimes it is interesting. If you work full-time, often you spend more time with your coworkers than you do your actual family members. And oftentimes when you're working in close proximity with someone, some affection or friendship develops because you're sharing the same experiences that maybe you don't share with your family members at home. Well, it sounds very specific, Rupanuga Prabhu, but I would say, just as we are instructed in ISKCON to act as if your spiritual master is present, we shouldn't have any duplicity. We should be acting the same way without our spouse as we do with our spouse. And that should guide our consciousness as, am I overstepping? Am I being too friendly? Am I being unchaste? That should guide our actions. We know that chastity is very, very important for a wife. And so it's best to not get close to anyone of the male sex. And men should be thinking about their dharma of being the protector of their wife, of being a trustworthy leader that she can feel safe with, and not give her any reason to think that he's untrustworthy. I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that who've had maybe situations like that, Mother Kunti.
My former husband, Bali Raj, he actually counseled somebody who had a very difficult situation. He was married, and the wife was expecting, and she was only married for less than a year with him. And another girl showed up at the temple, and this person fell hook, line, and sinker in love with this other woman. And so much so that he approached his wife and told her, I'm so sorry. I know we've been together for less than a year, and you're expecting your first baby and our first child, but my heart belongs to another woman now. And that devotee actually said, I can't even believe she did this. She said, well, you can go with her if you like, and so so that person did. He said, my wife gave me permission, and of course he was rejected by her. And Balaraj took that person aside and said, you need to work out. You need to exercise. And he was walking with him, and they were doing all sorts of exercises. There's a cerebral pump and a sacral pump. And the sacral pump gets, as a yoga master, you've been teaching yoga for years. When the sacral pump gets jammed, that energy, it has to go somewhere. So Baliraj was very keen on people working out and actually getting their exercise. So that's one solution, along with never forgetting that your guru is watching
Yeah.
you at every moment. Jai.
Okay. That's a good point, to think, introspect why you might be acting in that way. Any final questions, comments, concerns? All right, we have one more. Don't want to hold everybody up, but thank you.
I'll just be quick. So regarding Lord Ram, Prabhuji, if you permit me, I just wanted to put what I think. Like I feel that Lord Ram loved Mother Sita so much that he was ready to separate from her for her self-respect. So for a woman, her self-respect is very important, and he knew that aspect. So to separate from her was like his priority. Even if it meant for him to leave her, he did that because he loved her so much. Yeah, that's.
I appreciate that perspective. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Thank you all very much for your participation and for tolerating me. Please forgive any of my wrongdoings. I appreciate you all. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai.